and welcome to Business Wrap. Today's big story is the RBI, but before that, let's take a look at the top headlines of the day. RBI keeps all the key policy rates unchanged in the annual monetary policy for financial year 2014-15, expects GDP to grow between 5 to 6% this fiscal, retail inflation targeted below 6% by January 2016. Markets end the session with another record high. Sensex gains 60 points. Nifty ends above 6,700 level for the second day in a row. And ADB ups the GDP forecast for India for financial year 14-15 to 5.5% from 4.7% previously, but says that the economy will not reach its potential until structural bottlenecks are overcome. Well, for the first time since he took over as Governor of Reserve Bank of India, Raghuram Rajan acted according to street expectations. Rajan, who has the knack of surprising markets, kept repo rate and cash reserve ratio or CRR unchanged at 8% and 4% respectively in the first bi-monthly review of its monetary policy. Since taking over as the Governor of the Reserve Bank of India, Raghuram Rajan has raised the repo rate 3 times by a total 75 basis points. So let's go through the nitty-gritties of the biggest story of the day, that's the RBI policy.
RBI Chief Raghuram Rajan in his maiden annual monetary policy had no big surprises for the market. In his straight and forward-looking policy statement, Dr. Rajan decided not to touch the policy rates. The repo rate remains at 8%, reverse repo at 7% and CRR at 4%. Going forward, RBI expects some pressure on industrial and agricultural growth during the current fiscal. Real GDP growth is projected to pick up from a little below 5% in the year 2014 to a range of 5 to 6% in the fiscal 2015. More importantly, for the first time, the RBI has made it crystal clear that the bank's policy stance will be firmly focused on keeping the economy on a disinflationary glide path that is intended to hit 8% CPI inflation by January 2015 and 6% by January 2016.
Our policy stance is firmly focused on keeping the economy on a disinflationary glide path that is intended to hit 8% CPI inflation by January 2015 and 6% by January 2016. At the current juncture, it is appropriate to hold the policy rate while allowing the rate increases undertaken during September 2013 through January 2014 to work their way through the economy.
The RBI has laid down 5 broad pillars for the monetary policy framework. Henceforth, retail inflation will be the core focus for policy decisions. The central bank would encourage competition via new banking licenses and is also in favor of consolidation. Consumer protection would be the new focus, and addressing the problem of corporate distress would be on the radar of the bank as well.
A number of measures to protect consumers are being envisaged. For example, banks should not levy penal charges for non-maintenance of minimum balances in ordinary savings banks accounts and on inoperative accounts, but instead they should curtail the services accorded to those accounts until the balance is restored.
The RBI would next focus on priority sector lending and will strive to increase the reach of financial services to everyone. The first review of the monetary policy is due on the 3rd of June 2014 and it ended on a positive note with the RBI saying that if inflation continues along the intended glide path, further policy tightening in the near term is not anticipated. With Bureau Inputs, Ajay Mishra's report, DD News.
Well, the industry has reacted to RBI's policy. FICCI expressed its disappointment and said that tweaking policy rates downwards would help lift business sentiments. Meanwhile, ASSOCHAM has...
Mr. Ajay Sriram, new president of the CII. Congratulations, sir, on being appointed. Sir, my first question is, you talked in your opening remarks, you talked about uneasiness in business since 2007-8. What is actually that?
No, if we see in the last 2 years, the GDP growth rate has come down. That has affected certain sectors. If you see the auto sector is under stress, the capital goods industry is under stress. So the economic activity has come down. Good thing is in the last 6 months, things have picked up again. Our current account deficit is more under control. Inflation has come down. Our even manufacturing sector, industrial sector has shown better results in the last month. So I think things are moving. It's a combination of domestic issues, it's a combination of international issues. So I think across the board, there has been stress. We are saying 6 months is good, but as we presented today, I think if we can give a more focused approach towards targeted areas which boost the economic activity, I think the country can move ahead faster.
Sir, you talked about domestic indicators. They have really shown some improvement in recent times. But talking about FIIs, it has dipped in the recent times, like 3% dip in the whole of year. So how do you think that the foreign investors are not looking ahead with a positive sentiment?
I think at the moment, because of the political uncertainty, everyone is wanting to know what the new government will bring. And that's understandable because, I think everyone wants to invest in a stable economic environment. And for that, you require a stable government. So I think everyone is a little bit of a wait or watch. But the good thing again is if you see last 3 months, 4 months, activity has picked up. You see the share market movement in the last 1 month. It's moved very positively across the board. You see the rupee, it's strengthened across the board, which means money has come in. So I think India as a country has a lot of strengths. I think we have a lot of resilience. And I think we will get over this and move ahead well.
Sir, any expectation or what is your wish list from the new government?
We in fact set out a theme for the year where we feel that the focus and attention of the government has to be on many areas. The government has to look at 100 areas. But we've identified 10, which we think can actually help in terms of pushing this a little faster. And it's right from education, whether school level education, higher level education, skill development, to the situation of how to run a business, ease of doing business, the regulatory framework, how to improve exports. We've got ideas and suggestions on that. Up to the extent really where one side we want people to become more employable, the other side we want to create entrepreneurs who want people who are employable. So we want to cover both sides so that the job creation one side and job seekers on the other side, we can marry both so that the employment goes up and economic growth.
So talking about the economy once again, RBI has maintained status quo in its recent monetary policy. How do you see that?
Well, we actually had suggested to the government that they should have a reduction in interest rates. But the government or the RBI thought otherwise, which is fine. That's in their wisdom. We appreciate that. We will again interface with them that now the inflation is more under control, current account deficit is more under control. So we will interface with them and request next time to look at reducing interest rates so that we feel it can boost economic activity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
So that was the newly appointed CII president talking exclusively with our correspondent Abhishek Jha. Meanwhile, we were talking about the RBI policy. Another industry chamber, that's FICCI. FICCI has expressed its disappointment and said that tweaking policy rates downwards would help lift business sentiments. Meanwhile, ASSOCHAM has said that while the Reserve Bank has genuine concerns over risk to CPI inflation, the RBI had the opportunity to give growth a chance to reinvigorate by reducing the policy interest rates and reviving the investor sentiments. Onto the market action. The markets continued its bull run today. Key benchmark indices edged higher in choppy trade with investor sentiment boosted by firm Asian and European stocks. High volatility was witnessed as key benchmark indices alternatively swung between positive and negative zone after the Reserve Bank of India kept its main lending rates unchanged at 8% after the monetary policy review announced at 11 a.m. today. Key benchmark indices regained positive zone in early afternoon trade. Sensex ended 60 points up at 22,446, while NSE Nifty closed 17 points up at 6,721. Index heavyweight Reliance Industries edged higher in volatile trade. Auto stocks were mixed. Mahindra & Mahindra rose after reporting sales volume data for March 2014. Maruti Suzuki India declined on weak sales in March. Banking and realty stocks declined. Gainers on the chart were Wipro, SSLT, TCS, Tata Steel and Mahindra & Mahindra, which were up by between 4 to 1%. Losers on the chart were Hindalco, Maruti Suzuki, ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank and BHEL, which were down by between 3 to 1%. The market breadth indicating the overall health of the market was positive. On to global market action, European stocks edged higher on Tuesday after the latest data showed growth in euro area manufacturing staying close to the highest level in almost 3 years in March. Key benchmark indices in UK, Germany and France were up by between 0.42% to 0.62%. On to Asian stocks, the Asian stocks edged higher also on Tuesday after China's official PMI survey showed manufacturing managed to continue expanding in March and dovish comments from Federal Reserve Chair Janet Yellen. Key benchmark indices in Hong Kong, South Korea, China, Singapore, Japan and Taiwan were up by between 0.27% to 2.22%. Well, time for a short break, but after the break we have a special discussion on the RBI's monetary policy.
2 एकम 2, 2 दूनी 8, 8 दूनी 24, 24 दूनी 60। अगर आप सोच रहे हैं कि मेरे पहाड़े गलत हैं, तो आप गलत सोच रहे हैं। ये महंगाई का वो पहाड़ा है जो इस देश की सरकार हमें पढ़ा रही है। महंगाई का पहाड़ खड़ा करने वालों जनता माफ नहीं करेगी।
चलो हालात बदले, देश की सरकार बदले, भाजपा को वोट दे, अब की बार मोदी सरकार।
ऐसी है ना, मतलब हर महीने का टेंशन। पहले मैं भी ऐसा ही सोचती थी, पर जब से गर्भ निरोधक गोलियां लेने लगी ना, तो उनसे कुछ सुना है। अरे कुछ नहीं होता, ये नए जमाने की गोलियां हैं, बिल्कुल सुरक्षित। अब तो चुप नहीं।
दुनिया भर में 8 करोड़ महिलाएं गर्भ निरोधक गोलियों का सेवन कर रही हैं। आप भी अपनाइए।
Hi, welcome back. The RBI's monetary policy was the biggest story from the business sector today, and we're joined by Dr. Sunil Sinha, economist, to talk more about it. Sir, how do you see the whole policy as? Of course, it was no surprise because many were expecting no change in the policy rates, but how do you take it as?
Well, I mean, so far as the policy is concerned, obviously it was on the expected lines, unlike previous 2 or 3 occasions when the RBI governor surprised the market with his actions. This time broadly they were on the expected lines. So far as policy rates are concerned, obviously different sections of the society which has been kind of witnessing a double whammy. On the one hand, high inflation, on the other hand, high rate of interest on the borrowed money. So obviously as a consumer, everyone would like to kind of see some decline in the interest rate. But the important thing here is to understand and see as to how inflation has been behaving and how it is expected to behave.
So, but will you consider today's policy action, we'll come to inflation
Yes.
also, but will you consider today's policy action as a little bit hawkish in nature?
I would not consider it to be hawkish. I mean, let me put it this way. I believe that under the circumstances, perhaps RBI has taken a very prudent decision of holding the rate where it was. And my own view is that given the way things are unfolding and likely the inflation trajectory would unfold, probably one will witness a longer pause on the part of the RBI so far as policy rates are concerned.
And that long pause could be like how long?
That could be at least maybe another 6 months.
Okay, till like September.
Yes, I mean, because as I said, I mean, even though the inflation has come down, but all of us know that this decline is driven by the vegetable and fruits prices. And the vegetable and food prices typically have a seasonality involved there. So as the winter is now ending and the summer season is about to begin, in any case, the kind of decline one has witnessed till about February will no longer hold for the next 2 to 3 months. And if you combine it with the expectation that monsoon may not turn out to be normal, then obviously the risk on the inflationary front is still very much
So,
there.
sir, inflation remains a risk. In the press conference, when Raghuram Rajan, governor, read out his statement, inflation was spoken the most. If I go through this whole speech, so he has kept a target of 8% for 2015 and CPI inflation, that is, and 6% for 2016. Do you think these targets are achievable?
Well, if you look at the inflation number that came in for the month of February, then certainly, I mean, one can expect that if CPI inflation is already 8.1%, and if the target rate is 8% by January 2015, and then you are almost there. I mean, so what's the big deal? I mean, this clearly is a and if you use the past 3 months, trend, then certainly inflation would go down, and so RBI should take a policy decision which should be more towards moderating the policy rates rather than holding it. But as I said earlier, that the inflationary trend going forward may or may not turn out to be what one has witnessed in the last 3 to 4 months. That's point number one. The point number two is again that if monsoon does not pan out the way it turned out to be last year, that's the second risk, again the pressure. And the third thing of course relates to the fact that part of the decline in inflation from say July to December would simply be driven by the base effect, because during this period the inflation was very high last year. So typically, so does that mean that inflation is actually coming down, or is there some statistical illusion to it and there are risks? So taking all of these into account, RBI has clearly stated that unless and until inflation follows the expected path, it will be very difficult for RBI to really
so
go ahead.
Inflation remains a threat.
Absolutely,
and you
absolutely.
never know when the demon rises.
It has surprised us in the past.
But
I mean,
when inflation comes, obviously the talk of growth also comes. India has been now witnessing growth below 5% for a long time. The RBI has estimated that the growth will be around 5 to 6%. Do you think that India soon will grow above 5%, and that whole sub 5% growth will will break out of that cycle basically?
well, I mean, at India Ratings, our own estimate is about 5.6% for the fiscal year FY15, which is certainly better than the growth that the economy witnessed in FY14. So, I mean, my own view is that somewhere the growth decline has bottomed out. So, from here on we may see some improvement on the GDP growth. However, much of the growth in FY15, as I said, would depend on how some of the risks which still can destabilize the growth pans out. One, of course, is monsoon. The other is that in the last 6 to 8 months, I mean, Cabinet Committee on Investment had cleared a large number of, projects which were stalled for a very long period of time. But many of them, despite the clearances, may not see the light of the day. And most of them obviously are expecting what will be the likely outcome of the election. So, it is very important for the new government to take the agenda forward and create a more conducive, climate for these investments to fructify. So
that will happen after the election results comes out. But right now, hope is the only word for the Indian economy. Well, thank you so much for joining with us in our studios and talking about the RBI policy. Well, time for a short break. After the break, more on the other side on all what's making news in the business world.
महंगाई को लगातार बढ़ाने वालों जनता माफ नहीं करेगी।
बिजली के लिए तरसाने वालों जनता माफ नहीं करेगी।
हमारी बेटियों को सुरक्षा न दे पाने वालों जनता माफ नहीं करेगी।
युवाओं को बेरोजगार रखने वालों जनता माफ नहीं करेगी।
चलो हालात बदले, देश की सरकार बदले, भाजपा को वोट दे। अब की बार मोदी सरकार।
पराठा या आयरन की नीली गोली, पहले क्या आता है? जो सही जवाब देगा वो ये पराठा जीतेगा। सोचो। टाइम ओवर। पहले आता है पराठा, फिर आयरन की गोली, यानी खाने के कम से कम 1 घंटे बाद लेना आयरन की गोली। तो अब जैम पराठा कौन खाएगा?
बनना है एकदम सॉलिड तो लो आयरन की एक नीली गोली हर हफ्ते, खाने के कम से कम 1 घंटे बाद। सरकारी स्कूल और आंगनबाड़ी केंद्रों में निःशुल्क उपलब्ध। सॉलिड बनो इंडिया, भारत सरकार की पहल।
Well, welcome back. We are getting a breaking news that the Election Commission has allowed the RBI to go ahead with granting in principle approval for the new bank licenses. Well, that's the big breaking news that's coming in from the Press Trust of India, that's PTI, and of course that will be making big headlines tomorrow in morning newspapers. But moving on, according to the Asian Development Bank, India's GDP is poised to accelerate to 5.5% in financial year 2014-15 on the back of improved performances in the industry and services sector. ADB said that developing Asia is poised to sustain its current growth momentum and is well positioned to manage risk coming from a slightly slower Chinese economy and possibly uneven demand from major industrialized nations. The ADB expects China's economic growth to slow to 7.5% this year and a further drop to 7.4% in the financial year, in the calendar year, basically 2015. Well, that's all in this edition of Business Wrap. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.